I hope we can demystify some of the confusion you may have about the Indian market through this session today, which talks about how to work with India. Is it going to be the next format paradise? If you look at it, India has been looked at a very promising market. The jury is out whether it will overtake China at some stage, probably in the next decade or so, as the world's largest economy. We have a new Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. He's been very, very keen on opening up the entire economy, especially the media sector. Today, any production company can invest 100% in production in India. They're looking at also simplifying filming production procedures through a single window clearance with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. We had Yoku Tudu actually coming and producing Big Brother China out of India. The entire season was produced out of India, where Big Brother, Big Boss in India is produced. So that's how simple life is becoming if you want to come and produce in India. On the format side, South Korea in Asia, Israel, Turkey, China are marching ahead. Will India ever find its place in the format sun? It's got a lot of catching up to do. So before we get on with the panel discussion, I'll just give you a little background on what the Indian market is all about. So my name is Anil Vanwari. I'm the founder of the Indian Television.com group in India. We are doing online publishing. We also produced galas and events in India and conferences. So it's about, the television industry in India is about a US $8 billion industry. There are close to about 870 TV channels, around 50 general entertainment channels. The difference in India is that we have specialized channels only showing general entertainment as compared to other countries where you have all kinds of programming on a channel. There are about 170 million TV households, 46 million satellite TV households, 95 million pay cable TV households. Right now, digitization is happening with set-top box being rolled across in interior India. There are about 26 languages, 200,000 hours of fresh television entertainment content is made each year, across languages and mainline genres, excluding news and films. The TV advertising market is about 3 billion, expected to touch about 5.5 billion by 2020. The pay TV market is about $1.5 billion, expected to touch $3.5 billion by 2020. Around $620 million is invested in content production on TV in India. 500 million is spent by Hindi language. There are 26 languages, Hindi is the most prominent on content. The main players are Murdoch Star Plus, Sony Entertainment, Colors, which is part of Viacom, CTV, which is a very homegrown network which has close to about 37 channels, Life OK, which is again part of Murdoch Star Group. Then there's Colors Rishte, there's ANTV, which is another ancillary channel of the CTV group, and Doordarshan. Regional languages, there are a minimum of three entertainment channels which are leading in every regional language. So you're looking at 27 languages into that many channels. Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, Marathi, Gujarati, Bengali, Bhojpuri, and Punjabi are some of the main languages. 90% of content is viewed on general entertainment channels as fiction, soap, drama, and Bollywood songs and films. The remaining is non-fiction format shows. The TV advertising market is about $3 billion, expected to reach 5.5 billion by 2020. We talked about the pay TV market, 1.5, expected to reach 3.5 billion again. IndianTelevision.com estimates that the TV formats business in India is about 66,000 million rupees or $90 million. This includes the production costs. Almost 80% of this is accounted by Hindi general entertainment channels. Non-fiction format genres which have been attempted in India are game shows, talent hunts, dance talent shows, mainly with celebrity and some unknown singing hunts. The TV formats began in the 70s and 80s with one broadcaster, state-owned broadcasters producing something called What's the Good Word. Then there was something called 20 Questions, then there was Quiz Time, then there was Tele Matches which we used to import from Germany. Satellite television launched in India in 1991, Z launched in 1992-93. The first format which they really did was 8 minute, which was how much can you perform in a minute? That was pretty successful in its time. Then there was Saregama, which was before even Indian Idol was created. Oh, sorry, Pop Idol was created. Way back before Pop Idol was created. Antakshari, their shows ran for many years. Then Sony launched another dance format called Boogie Boogie. This was before any of the British formats were created. It ran for more than 12 years. ESPN launched K for Cricket. Star Plus then in 2000 launched Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Kaun Banega Crorepati with Amitabh Bachchan, India's biggest film stars and sports. Many rip-offs followed. They all failed apart from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Which are the major format companies in India? There's Endemol Shine. It's totally Indianized. They've produced Big Fear Factor, Big Boss, which is Celebrity Big Brother. Fremantle produces Indian Idol. Zodiac, which is a majority of Soul Productions. It's produced a Bachelorette in the past. Strictly Come Dancing, Part 1 and 2, and That's My Kid. Colosseum, which has produced MTV Roadies for 12 seasons. Master Chefs, Junior Master Chef. Then there's Wizcraft, there's Miditech, which is currently shut down. Then there's Big Synergy. There's BBC Productions, Bulldog Entertainment, Grey Matter. That's Rahul Sarangi from Grey Matter. And we have GoQuest, then there's Vivek Lath. The channels which carry formats in India are Star Plus, Sony, Colors, ZTV, and TV, and there are many other regional players. And in recent time, fiction formats have been making a comeback. 24 is being produced in its second season in India on Colors, which is part of Viacom. Comedy Nights with Couple, which was a takeoff on Kumar's of 42nd Street, on Colors is now moved to Sony, and it's been renamed as, actually it's been recreated as Kapil Sharma Show. Then there's Prisoners of War, which is Homeland, being remade on Star Plus. It's been licensed to Star Plus. And Everybody Loves Raymond. It didn't do very well though on Star Plus. Now the digital ecosystem, we have digital advertising is about $1.2 billion. 4 billion, expected to touch 4 billion by 2020. It's driven by mobile. There are 200 million smartphones in 2050, 700 million, it should touch 700 million by 2020. Mobile internet phones will be 500 million by 2020. The watch time on video watch time on mobile is about 3 hours and 18 minutes a day. That's a lot of time being spent. Lots of VOD players are moving in. Netflix is coming. Our boosts for Netflix are about $9 to $12. There are about 15,000 paying subs. It launched about 2 months ago. Hotstar, which is about 100 million, expecting to have 100 million users by end this year. Ditto and Mozi, which is part of ZTV. We've got Yogesh from ZTV over here. Then there's Woot from Viacom, which launched about 4 days ago. Or Digital from Balaji Televisions, which is India's most prolific television producer, which is slated to launch in the not-too-distant future. Hook, Viewclip, Amazon, Sony Live, and Spoon. Most of the platforms are running on AWOD, advertising will be on demand, apart from Netflix. They have there's also Eros, which is doing some SWOD and TWOD kind of attempts. Commissioning shows are, these platforms are commissioning shows at about $40,000 to $50,000 per episode. OML, which has just produced one for Star India and Hotstar. This is Ajay Nair from that firm. Anyway, thank you. That's a broad overview. If you want this presentation, I could send it to you. Now I'll hand you over to Ajay to just give you a short speak about himself and his company before we get on to the panel discussion. Then Vivek will speak, Rahul will speak, finally Yogesh will speak.
Hi, I'm Ajay. I'm the CEO at Only Much Louder, which is OML. So we started our business as a talent management business about 15 years ago, and over the last 5 years we've become content producers as well. We created a show called The Doers, which was actually made in collaboration with a brand, Doers, which is a whiskey brand owned by Bacardi, which was probably one of the first branded entertainment shows in India, which traveled internationally. Doers is developing it around the world now. Over the last 2 years, one of the things that we've started doing is work with the top YouTube creators in India. We manage them, we're sort of an MCN in that sense, but develop formats with them, which usually first reside on digital platforms. Anil mentioned a bunch of them. And then sometimes it journeys to television. But for us, the advantage is because suddenly now there is this huge influx of digital platforms which have launched in India. There's of course YouTube as well. The ability to create formats and shows which don't necessarily have to travel to linear TV to be released very, very quickly. And usually they scale much faster. Production budgets actually are higher than television in most cases. So for instance, last year we created a format called the Comedy Hunt for YouTube, where YouTube and us went out and got brands to sort of come on board to find the next top comedy creator in India. We're doing the second season now later this year. We're doing a series called Laughter Games, again with YouTube. So 6 shows are launching simultaneously next month. 4 of them are format shows based around the top comedy creators in the country. Again, I think one of the big advantages of working in India is that your ability to work with brands is very high. Pretty much nobody pays for content, whether it's online or on television. The amount you pay is very low. So you have to collaborate with brands to be able to bring formats bring new shows to the market. But there is massive appetite for that. India is largely a single TV household, so the younger generation pretty much considers the mobile screens or PCs as their first screen and not as a second screen. So any shows that you're making for them, it's usually very easy to find brands to sort of fund that. As Anil mentioned, we created a show called On Air with AIB. AIB is the biggest comedy collective in India. So we created a news comedy show with 4 guys sort of helping it in English and Hindi simultaneously. We actually made it for Hotstar, which is a digital platform owned by Fox in India first, and then 3 days later it would debut on television on Star Plus, which is the biggest GEC in India. So to summarize, massive demand for online content, which is where I think a lot of our business sort of comes from, targeting a very specific demographic, which is about 17 to 35, and usually funded by brands who have a lot of appetite to sort of create this kind of content and formats.
Great.
I run a content distribution company, GoQuest Media. Sold many hours of content in a global distribution company, not only selling Indian content but also international content as well. Just MIPTV, we've launched GoQuest Formats, our new brand, a new company, specifically looking at format selling globally. Formats produced by independent developers from Europe, from Italy, Spain, and from India as well. Most of them are paper formats, a couple of them are produced formats, but from a target point of view, we're looking at millennials and formats which have convergence between both digital and TV at the same time, where apps or games where audiences can also be involved in the overall game shows while they're actually going on TV. It's just the start, and there are some very interesting things happening in India as well. We're also looking at travel show formats, given the rise of travel and lifestyle genre within India. So makeover shows around travel and adventure are something that we're looking forward to now.
Thank you. Okay, Rahul, it's over to you.
I run a format company out of India. We're just 6 years old. There are 2 of my formats which is sold globally. One is called Remix, #1 show in a couple of markets, getting to production in China in 3 weeks. So, should I show you the trailer?
Yeah, please, can you roll the trailer remix? Thank you.
It's the new sound of music, the remix. Where scratching, mixing, singing, and innovation come together in one blow-up live performance. Each team is made up of a singer and a music producer who collaborate to make music like you've never heard before. With 10 weeks of intense competition, the artists give it all they have to impress the nation and get closer to the reward of a contract.
So this is distributed by a global agency. So the pride for us is as an Indian format company is about in about a year and a half. We have sold it to about 16 territories. Some big territories in Europe. We're closing in UK and US. The other format, which Ajay was saying, was about digital meets TV. We've just created a brand new format. This MIP you'll hear some massive deals getting closed. That's represented by Dentsu Story Lab. So it is an app-based idea with a variety show. We'll show you a little 40-second promo. And
Can we have the next promo, please? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is my head, this is my heart. Please help support the performing arts. Please give what you can.
Format creation company, we focus on mass shiny flow as it's called, which can travel to all parts of the world. And the second thing is how digital can become intrinsically important. And third, how you can monetize it even after the show is over.
Thanks, Rahul. Over to Yogesh. He's the sole broadcaster on the panel. So,
Hi, I'm Yogesh Kanikurve. I head the business for Z Living in Asia Pacific. It's a factual entertainment wing of Z Entertainment, which is one of India's largest media conglomerate, having a presence in 159 countries across the world and reaching almost an audience of 959 million people. We have been in the business, we are the pioneers of television in India, and that started in '92, almost like 25 years ago. And in the last 20 years, we have had indigenous formats which we have applied within India. One of the foremost formats have been Dance India Dance and Saregama, which is, the previous one is dance and the second one is the music format, much before any of the Western formats have been developed. But only now we have started a format division, and more importantly, we have also started a factual entertainment division, which is Z Living, that we are currently present in 6 Asia Pacific countries, and then also present in the US and Russia and MENAP region. I would like to show you a small
Can we roll the tape, please?
The Z Network has over 1 billion satisfied viewers across 169 countries. Through a staggering 34 national channels and 35 international channels. A grand, heart-touching experience of the biggest adapted formats on Indian television. The latest shows, A Voice. I can do that.
इस दुनिया का सबसे इको फ्रेंडली होस्ट फरहान अख्तर और आपका वेलकम करता हूँ I can do that में
इंडिया पूछेगा सबसे शाना कौन?
वर्ल्ड टेलीविजन पर पहली बार इंडिया पूछेगा सबसे शाना कौन? So you think you can dance?
So you think you can dance? We showcase our homegrown formats which have etched new horizons in the media and entertainment industry. Dance India Dance. Saregama Pa. Mr. Lala's Luminaire, Chef on Wheels. Now presenting our original formats in scripted and factual shows. The Eclipse Harvest, Circus Bazaar, Steve McCurry's World, The Crown Trunk Road, Ibada, Unique Villages, Equestrian World, Ganga, the Soul of India. Travel, quiz, dance, music and much more.
Great. Anything else, Yogesh, or you're done? Great. So, what we'll do now is we'll have a short panel discussion, and if we have question and answers in the audience, we'll answer them. There are various ways that format and production companies have found to work in India. We've got Endemol, which is owned by Shun and Allo Media, CA Media, and they operate like a production company in India. You've got joint ventures. Zodiac has a joint venture with Sol in India. You've also got licensing and distribution arrangements. Which one would, let's say, Z recommend, and which one of each of you recommend a newcomer wanting to get into the formats business in India, a formats company?
Currently, it's a very nascent stage of the format business in India. In the sense that, yes, there have been earlier formats also, but only now you see a stage where the format business is actually taking on exponentially. Most of the format companies which are existing in India have also started a production wing. So that helps the broadcaster to understand and bridge the gap between the format's owner and the broadcaster themselves. So in the initial stages, yes, the licensing of the format helps, but in the case of increasing revenues and in case of actually understanding the formats better and taking it forward, it helps that the licensing company is also a production company. But there will be a stage soon enough where I think the paper formats which have not been produced earlier will also exist. So there is, like you rightly said, India is a vast land of 26 languages, and at least 9 languages there are television channels. When we are talking about the formats business, this has been prevalent largely in the Hindi television space. Whereas the other part of the Indian television spectrum, which is about 8 languages, has not been so much exposed to the foreign formats. They have been largely adapting the Hindi formats and using it themselves. So initially I would think pure licensing format of and having a production house which also produces the the formats helps. And then of course you can get on to the higher version of whether it is working together on the formats or co-producing, and everything will take
take care of them.
Any of you have another view?
Yeah, I think one of the simple things when you're entering India, obviously it's a slightly complex country. It would be sort of advisable to work with a local partner to begin with. You don't have to do it throughout. Simply because you pretty much cut your time to market by at least a couple years. Versus if you're bringing an international format to India and flying in, flying out, or setting up a small office, the amount of time it will take to develop something which you can sell actually is a bit longer. And I think the second thing, you have an advantage when you're working with a local partner in understanding how the economics of the business in India work. We are a very low production budget market in general, both for fiction and non-fiction. And I think going back to what Yogesh mentioned as well, it's useful therefore to have a local production arm. So we, for example, spoken with a lot of international format guys who expect a certain value when you're trying to license a format in India. And it's a non-starter simply because of the numbers to begin with, because you're layering in the cost that you're bringing in from outside India. So it's useful to have a local partner to navigate that. Once a format takes off, you always have the opportunity to obviously set up shop in India. The numbers start going up if the format is successful. But initially, I think pretty much all the formats that have come into India have worked because there is a local partner sort of fronting that, both in terms of production and liaising with the television networks, for instance.
Anyway.
I agree with what Ajay is saying. It's important to have a local partner, not only from a cost standpoint or the time that you would spend there. Culturally, India is very different from the rest of the world. So to understand the Indian sensibility is very different, you know. So it takes a fair amount of time to understand that. Endemol set up, Fremantle set up shop thrice. They shut down thrice, and this is the third time they have actually.
But right now they have a $10 million business. Endemol has about a $50 million
No,
business.
so basically what I'm trying to say is the same thing what Ajay is saying. I'm seconding that is important to work with local partners, set the business up, and then grow your business from there on.
Okay. Are there any peculiarities about the Indian market that you would like to, to kind of, Vivek, you haven't spoken, which any foreigner wanting to do, license a format in India that he has to be very specific about?
So, if you look at the ratings and the numbers, largely your music, your dance shows have done very well. You know, even small variations within the music and the dance show genres have been getting good ratings across different channels. And so I don't know if that is sort of what the audience wants, or that is sort of what the channels only want to try. But going forward now, there is a significantly large opportunity to cater to the millennials, to the young audience. And the biggest example is Roadies on MTV at this point. And
12 seasons, right?
12 seasons, and if you look at any day, just go to the most popular YouTube videos in India, Roadies and Splitsvilla are the two shows, and which absolutely cater to age groups below 30. So that sort of is a low-hanging fruit and a good opportunity that one could go after. Someone should just look up Roadies or Splitsvilla and see what kind of formats they are.
I think one of the other things to think of when you're trying to bring a format to India, given how strongly advertiser-led it is, if you know of how comfortably you can fit in categories of brands, whether it's a telco brand or a car brand or something, it automatically gives you a heads up, a leg up in terms of being able to sell it. Because fundamentally, even if you look at Roadies, largely been bankrolled by one single brand for the longest time. Now it's changed. And I think therefore thinking through how you integrate a brand within a format which might actually be a little bit higher in terms of customization vis-a-vis, for example, a European market or some other Asian markets is useful, because most channels also think of how do you best position a show to get a brand to buy it. And it's not just the inventory sale, it's actually the integration of a category or a product within it. And secondly, now because of the launch of a bunch of digital platforms, you actually have the ability to sell something to a television channel who also have digital platforms. All of them have launched their own digital platforms, or you sort of slice and dice and sell it separately. So that's something that's evolving as we speak.
In terms of the license fees out of India, I believe, I was speaking to Avi Armoza, he says that it's a great place to do business in India. The talent costs are what are really crippling the industry. License fees are relatively not something to write mother about. So any comments on that?
Well, if you look at most of the Indian adaptation with the format that is happening in India, they're all on the back of that big 2 names or 3 names, right? And those guys are very, very expensive, right? Because it's demand supply. at some level.
Yeah, but there's a peculiarity. Even the big format shows need film stars in it.
Yeah,
Then they work.
exactly.
So the
So
talent
you
costs
have
a
to
lot.
spend on top dollar on. So I'll give you a sense of that. When I was at Viacom, when we did Fear Factor, we had Akshay Kumar, who was a big movie star. We paid him about $30 million.
To be the host.
To be
How
the
many
host.
episodes?
15 to 17 episodes.
Wow, I'd love
So
to be
that's
Akshay.
the kind of a value. I mean, if you need him, he'll ask you for whatever money and you have to pay that money, right? And so now what the broadcasters have started doing is they're saying, it's part of the marketing budget, it's out of the marketing spend, and so on and so forth. So, and license fee, you're right. India is still very nascent in understanding the model of license fee, ancillary rights fee, and so forth. It's not massive. But yes, if the formats are working fine, if every stakeholder is making their buck, then I would reckon that they would be happy to share.
One more thing I would sort of like to add here is look at the opportunity from a multiple language point of view. So you have Hindi, which is the largest market, and if a format, tends to be successful there, you have an easy sale to all the other regional language channels.
Because all the main networks have regional language channels.
So while from one channel your license fee may not look very big, but when you make it successful in one and you sell it to 4 or 5 other languages, you see some substantial amount of license fee out there.
Yeah.
So just to add to what he's saying, if you understand the hub production model, when you do Fear Factor, you do in Argentina, every country comes and goes and shoots. In India, it's like a small Europe. There are 6 markets, 6 channels, 6 languages. You can do one set, and every day you can shoot. So your cost of production doesn't go up phenomenally, but your monetization and your license fees can go up.
Yeah, the per episode cost for a large format show is probably about $200,000, $300,000. The production cost. The production.
It's about 200 to 300,000 US.
That's for the largest one. Right?
It's for something like your Idol or
Big Boss.
Yeah.
Or Big Brother.
Big Brother is different because you can't compare. It's a one-time cost, of the house is different. But the costing of a shaggy floor is about $250,000 to $300,000 minus that.
Now, which genres do you see emerging as strong going forward? And where do you see opportunity? Turkish dramas are coming into India. Do we see that being made as dramas, remade as dramas in Indian languages? Or do you see Indian dramas and Indian non-fiction formats traveling? One is on the scripted, one is on the non-scripted.
So on the fiction side, there is actually a significantly large opportunity. There are a lot of Turkish producers and Turkish channels who have already optioned out their licenses to various Indian channels. One of the Indian production companies also made a pilot and is trying to sell a Turkish show made with Indian actors to the channel here. It's also going on the other way around. In fact, we are in talk for stories from India that can travel there. A lot of the stories, the cultures are pretty similar. Very recently, an Indian show from Star became a super hit. It was a rage. The actor was almost mobbed. So
In Turkey, that was.
in Turkey, yes. And so that shows an opportunity that Indian stories are working really well in many parts of the world, which gives the opportunity to sell just the scripts.
Yeah, any last words? We've got 49 seconds. Any last words for this audience on the formats business in India?
I think the format business is quite exciting because India is now starting to create its own format, which is going to travel the world and it's going to go work in different territories. There will be a brand new take on how formats have been done for so many years from the Europe and the UK markets. So you'll see a new trend emerging, and it's very good for TV globally, I would say.
Yogesh?
India is a land of storytellers. So when television started, we all started with fiction. Yeah. So we have actually gone back the way. We have gone back in progression rather than gone ahead in terms of the kind of content. So we started with fiction. We then moved on to reality, and now we are getting on to even factual entertainment. So I think having explored fiction and reality formats in a big way by various television channels, I think it's now time for factual entertainment, whether it is food, travel, homes, or any of this health, wellness kind of, those kind of channels. It's time, and you will see this thing happening with Discovery and History investing big time into indigenous content within India and taking those formats also outside of India. So I think it's time for factual entertainment.
Vivek?
I would say I would agree with Yogesh. This is also one of the the upcoming things, and factual entertainment is something that will grow significantly. But if you really want to enter India faster, start looking at scripts. That's something which will be much faster, much easier to sell an option now. Game shows have very limited slots at this point, or I would say go straight to the regional language channels. They don't pay a lot of money, but because they have a significant amount of churn in in reality formats, so it's a good opportunity for you to start somewhere and then move on to the bigger ones, which is the Hindi GC channels.
Ajay?
I think there's obviously a fairly massive opportunity there simply because of the way the demographics are moving in India right now. We are a very immature market in terms of how much consumption of content actually happens. But increasingly, there is a lot of access to international content, both fiction and non-fiction. We pirate everything. So we watch a lot of international content, and increasingly, therefore, our sensibilities are influenced by that, which means there's an opportunity to bring a lot of these formats here. I think over the last couple of days, I've been watching a bunch of formats across the board, across genres. At least 40 or 50% of them, if adapted well, would comfortably work in India because these are universal themes, these are game shows, stuff about dating, which is frankly a fairly new phenomenon in India. The fact that dating is acceptable in India is maybe 10 or 15 years old. So a lot of formats around that will definitely work in India. Extreme sports, music and comedy, sort of evergreen universal themes as well. So from an opportunity point of view, both appetite as well as sort of sensibilities are both maturing at the same time. In the next 10-15 years, we would imagine at least 40-50 international formats coming to India, either on television or digitally.
Thanks. Let's have a round of applause for this wonderful panel that we